What's up, GV Gang? Brandon here again to talk about more Nintendo Switch, because not only do we have Nintendo Switch 1, now we have Nintendo Switch 2. And both of those directs are within a week of each other, so it's time to get our predictions in finally for the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. I can't believe it's finally getting here. It's honestly, like, it's been so long since a new Nintendo console release that I feel like a completely different person. I didn't work in this industry back when the Switch came out. That's how long it's been. But today I'm joined by Steve Bowling and Ash Paulson, and we're going to give you all of the predictions that we've got stewing in our brains about Switch 2 right now. Ash, I'm going to throw it to you immediately. What you got?
All right, I'll start with some low-hanging fruit. I think we can all agree it's past time for us to see the next big 3D Mario. And I think alongside, we already know Mario Kart's a thing. I think we're going to see the next big 3D Mario. It's been like 8 years or something, 7-8 years since Odyssey. It's time, and I think we're going to see it in this Direct.
Yeah, I think that's a safe bet. I'm really excited to see what the game looks like. I know a lot of us have been thinking that Bowser's Fury is going to be kind of the blueprint for what they do next with 3D Mario, but I'm curious to, like, what degree do they take that to?
Right.
If it's an open world platformer, how big does it get? I mean, now we have an indie game. Was it Demon Tides coming out?
Yeah.
That is Bowser's Fury, like, cranked up to 27. But there's a part of me that says Nintendo is going to do something completely different, and it's going to be somehow groundbreaking. And I obviously can't predict that, because then I'd be lying to you. But I don't know. I feel that in my gut. What do you think, Steve?
I've been on the 3D Mario hype train for years now. I definitely feel like Switch 2 launch is the moment to reveal a big new 3D Mario. So I'm in line with both of you on the prediction front. On the speculation front, I think what we're going to see is our first, like, truly open world Mario. I think we're going to have just, one of the beautiful things about 3D Mario has been kind of open zone design, right? Is what I'll call it, even though I stole that from Sonic. In that, you have an objective, but you could collect a different star or do something else to get a shine or whatever your goal is. I think this time we're going to have, a way more open-ended Mario where it's like, hey, you need 120 stars to rescue the princess, and here's a big open place to explore, and they're all out there somewhere. You just got to find them. And I think you'll see, like, the natural progression of, different world themes that we've seen in other Marios. So, like, you might start out in a Mushroom Kingdom-esque place and then go to a lava world and a snow world. But instead of just going to a map and hitting a dot, you'll just be able to run from point to point.
I think that's the most exciting thing to me. Something that I love from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, that open air design, just stumbling into a place you didn't expect to find. I think one of my favorite things about Odyssey is that there were those paintings you could enter in the various worlds that would take you to a moon that was in a different one. Spoilers for the end of an 8-year-old game, but I discovered Princess Peach's castle well before the end of the game by hopping into a painting hidden in a different one. And I popped in there and I was like, whoa, what's this?
Yeah. And I just love the idea. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Brandon.
And that feeling is just so magical. And I want to experience that again.
Yeah, I hear you. And the idea of a truly open air Mushroom Kingdom that's, we've seen the Mushroom Kingdom expressed in animation, like the cartoons, as well as the recent Mario Brothers movie, where, like, warp pipes are all interconnected and stuff. Like, I can just imagine wandering through this open air Mushroom Kingdom, stumbling upon a pipe, and then just jumping into it and seeing where it goes. And then you're suddenly on the other side of the world and you don't even know where you are, but you just got to keep exploring to find stars. And there's something really exciting about that idea to me.
Yeah, this would be the first time that Zelda really informed Mario, because usually it's the other way around. Like, Nintendo has a very long history of creating a Mario game, then using the tech from that to create a Zelda game. So it'd be really cool to see them go the opposite way around this time, with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom informing the design of a proper 3D Mario game. And obviously we don't know what's in store. All of these predictions could turn out to be false, but
true.
I firmly believe that it's it's been long enough. It's been 8 years since the launch of Super Mario Odyssey. I think it's time that Nintendo shows off like a brand new 3D Mario. And I still think, I've been saying this for years, that this is going to be like our marquee launch title alongside Mario Kart 9. And that's my first prediction. It will be 9.
Okay.
And most likely Metroid Prime 4. I think those will be the big three from Nintendo. Maybe not all on day one, but within the first 60 days.
I think it's going to be Mario Kart 120 because it's going to be 120 frames per second, and that's going to apply to like 27 people.
That would actually be crazy.
There's rumors floating around about the screen supporting variable refresh rate and 120 FPS or 120 hertz. And a game like Mario Kart just makes perfect sense to me for it to be a game that would display at that FPS.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited we're getting into hardware talk here a bit because I fully agree that the Switch 2 is going to support some, maybe even all of the HDMI 2.1 feature set. Like you mentioned, variable refresh rate. For those of you that don't know, that's where your display matches whatever the frame rate of the console is to make even lower frame rate games look smoother, or in more practical applications, inconsistent frame rate games not look like they're chugging or tearing. So you might have a game that operates in that 30 to 45 FPS space, but on a VRR enabled display, it'll look as smooth as 60 because the refresh rate of the display is changing alongside the actual frame rate of the game. 120 hertz is a much more obvious thing. Games can run at 120 frames per second. I actually think we're going to have a handful of games that do this because there are a handful of multiplayer games that can do this now. So I think Switch 2 is going to run these at 1080p. I don't think we're going to see any like 4K 120 FPS games just because that's pretty rare even on the current crop of consoles, PS5 and Series X. But I could see utilizing the Switch's upscaling technology to give us 1080p at 120 FPS. So I would be willing to bet that Mario Kart 9, I agree with you, Brandon, because that would benefit greatly from a higher frame rate. But also third-party games like Rocket League and Fortnite are almost certainly going to be 120.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think it stops there. I think another game that we're probably going to see, I don't know if it'd be in the Direct, but I imagine we would hear about it very quickly, and that's Minecraft. Minecraft just got a presentation that showed its new like visual update. I forget what they call it, but like it has like advanced lighting. A lot. It looks a lot like what those like mods and those shaders that you would download on PC would make the game look like. But now it'll just be native to the game. And they said that they're going to bring that to multiple devices. And I would not be surprised if Nintendo Switch 2 is among them.
Agreed. And I think Fortnite will be pretty quick out of the gate too. Maybe not during the Direct, but I feel like Fortnite has to be an incredibly high priority for, a Switch 2 specific version. If
it's not in the Direct, it's still day one. I'd be shocked if it wasn't.
Right?
Yeah, I'm going to say that Fortnite is going to be in the Direct, but I don't think it's going to be a heavily featured item in the Direct. I think you'll get your typical third-party sizzle reel of games, and Fortnite will be in there. I don't think that they're going to have like Tim Sweeney come out and explain the minutia of how nice it looks, right?
Please don't.
Yeah. I hope that Nintendo, I'm actually going to make that prediction right now. I think Nintendo is going to stay away from the what they did in the 2017 Switch presentation, which was have a bunch of suits from various development houses come out and explain why they're excited. I think we're just not going to see that this time around. People understand that the Switch 2 is something to be hyped for already, and they're just going to focus on hardware and games.
I agree.
100%.
Yeah.
I don't really, they haven't said how long this is, but I couldn't imagine it exceeding like an hour and a half tops, but it's going to be packed with stuff. I could see us maybe spending 10 to 20 minutes on hardware, depending on like how much they want to like really dig in. I assume mouse mode is probably something they'll spend some extra time detailing and maybe showing. Maybe there's some built-in software that's going to show what makes mouse mode unique, even though people using computers have known that since forever. Yeah, I think probably at most 20 minutes on hardware and then maybe 45 minutes to an hour of games.
Yeah. That might be a little bit longer than I'm expecting it to be.
I was going to say I'm leaning towards 45 minutes.
Yeah,
and I know that sounds really disappointing, but I also think that there's as the three of us know in the world of content creation, engagement is a real big thing, and people don't hang on for a long time. So I think Nintendo might want to keep this as short as they can, but I want to go back because we started talking about hardware, and you touched on mouse mode, Brandon, and this is one of the things that I really want to call out of the gate, and a few things that I think we should touch on, that we should go around about. Why don't we start actually with what do we think launch date and price are going to be? And do we think they're going to announce them? I think they are.
I think they are.
I think launch is late May, early June, and I cannot see price exceeding $400. If they go over $400, they're shooting themselves in the foot.
I generally agree. I'm going to say early June. I think it's more June than May. That's my prediction, and I agree somewhere between 400, but I could see possibly 449. But I think that is the absolute ceiling, and I think 400 is like.
I'm pretty solidly in. So the date I'm not solid on. I think early to mid June. I wouldn't be surprised if we were like, June 15th ish. Sure. If they launched it around there. I think it's within the first 2 weeks of June. Let's put it that way. Okay. As for price, I agree with Brandon. I think you have to come in at about $399, $400. And I think that's the maximum, because when you get higher, you start to invite comparisons to the PS5. And that for Nintendo is a pretty unfavorable comparison.
Sure.
It's also not the only comparison that they would have to contend with. The Steam Deck's base LCD model at 256 gigabytes is $399.
Mm-hmm.
And that I know Nintendo doesn't really typically compete with that kind of thing, but I don't know. I think it is something that kind of makes me raise my eyebrows.
The market. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say the market is a lot different now than it was when the Switch launched. When the Switch launched, there was nothing like it out there, and now there are a lot of, for lack of a better term, copycat devices, right? All these handheld PCs out there that have access to all of what's available on Steam, which dwarfs even the current Nintendo Switch library. So there is. You're right, Brandon. Whether it's a fair comparison or not, it is something that consumers will look at when they're trying to decide what they buy, especially uninformed people, right? Like those of us who follow this stuff, we know why we want a Nintendo Switch or a Steam Deck, but there will be parents out there who just look at it as, well, this is a portable game too, so why not this one?
Do we think there could maybe be more than one SKU at launch, like the hardware only and then hardware plus Mario Kart 9? Which would be a little obviously more expensive. So like $399 for base hardware, $449 for base hardware, and Mario Kart 9 and a 3-month NSO subscription.
I don't think so.
No.
I think there's going to be one model.
Okay.
I agree with Brandon on this one for a couple of reasons. And I actually talked about this on the Week in Nintendo last episode from one of our mailbag questions. But supply is going to be incredibly constrained. Like Nintendo's not going to be able to produce enough Switch 2s to meet global demand. The other part of this is that if you actually go back through Nintendo's history, and I didn't really think about this until I had to answer this question, Nintendo does not like pack-in games. The NES had a pack-in game. The Super NES didn't at launch. The N64 didn't at launch.
Right.
The Wii and GameCube both did not at launch. In fact, the Wii in America did. In other territories,
and Reggie had to fight for that.
Japan,
yeah, he did. That's right.
In Japan, we did not get Wii Sports as a pack-in, and the Wii U only did if you bought the more expensive model, which you're alluding to, Ash. And then, of course, we all know Switch did. So Nintendo has like a really long history of just not giving you stuff with your console. So I think that we're not going to see it. I think that they're going to wait until there is good reason to, like a holiday. We'll see the perennial Mario Kart bundle with the Switch 2 as well. But I think what they're going to, the only thing I could see them potentially upselling on is NSO. Like, hey, thanks for buying a Switch 2. Here's 3 months because we hope you just keep buying into it. But I don't think that'll be a separate SKU. I think, if anything, it'll just be a pack-in every box, like a 3-month code
they should.
to get you to buy into the ecosystem.
They should do that, honestly. Yeah.
Speaking of NSO, I think this would be a time for Nintendo to maybe introduce some new NSO consoles that are only available on Switch 2.
That was my next prediction, actually. So nice. Yeah.
Go for it.
Oh, I was going to basically say just what you said. I think that during the Direct, they are going to announce new NSO consoles, and I think it'll be one of, or maybe both, 3DS or GameCube. I think either is on the table, and I do think that that's going to happen during the Direct. What I'm not as sure about is if it's going to be a new pricing tier or not, or if it's going to be part of the existing expansion pass. That's where I'm a little iffy. But I do think we're going to get either 3DS or GameCube, or maybe both.
See, now, I don't think we're going to get 3DS, but I do think we're going to get DS.
Okay.
And I think GameCube is very likely, because if you follow, everything that's been leaking, there's been a lot of hot speculation about a GameCube NSO controller. From people who track shipping manifests and all of this stuff, they've been saying that Nintendo is producing new GameCube controllers. So
there are two reasons that could be happening, but I think this one's more likely.
I think GameCube is likelier than 3DS, to be clear. 3DS is my slightly more off the wall prediction.
Yeah, I think I want to stick on controllers for a little bit because I'm surprised we haven't talked about this at all. One, obvious lock Pro Controller being shown.
I'm sad we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
but,
I know, me too.
This is my actual prediction: is that the Pro Controller is going to be true to the patents. So what we're and to be clear, so for some backstory here. Obviously, companies don't make everything they patent. The original Switch patent was just a frickin' oval with analog sticks on it. Obviously, we didn't get that. But I think in the case of the Pro Controller for the Switch 2, the patent is going to be accurate to what the final product is. And that's going to be a Pro Controller that snaps in half and has mouse sensors on each side and additionally can act as more comfortable Joy-Con for the Switch 2 itself. So that's my prediction. A breakable pro controller that we can actually use as a grip for the console.
If I don't have to buy a third-party peripheral to make my handheld console comfortable, I will sing to the gods. Because I have 5 different accessories for my Switch that make it more comfortable. My favorite is the Nitro deck, which makes it feel like a Steam Deck, which is infinitely more comfortable, by the way.
Yeah, I think like you said, they're inviting comparisons, right?
Yeah.
And this will be a positive one. They'll invite the comparison and be like, oh, well, if you want a really comfy handheld, you can add Pro Controller grips on the side. That being said, the downside to this, I think the Pro Controller is going to be $80, like the Joy-Con are.
Hey, if it has a headphone jack and it has that extra functionality, I think that is fine.
Yeah, I'd be okay with it.
Plus, there's still a chance our old Pro Controllers are going to work anyway. So, if you want the more premium Pro Controller now, well, it's an option, but the old one's still there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to go back to NSO really quick because this just kind of popped into my head. We were talking about GameCube. I know there are a lot of people out there in the world who desperately want another Smash Brothers. I think we're going to be waiting on that for a bit. I do think it's coming, but I think they're going to pitch Melee on GameCube NSO as the Smash that you can play when the console comes out.
I'm less sure about that. I just feel like that's a losing battle for them because the Melee fans are probably not going to be happy with however they do it.
Oh, I don't give two craps about the Melee fans. I'm just talking about Smash fans.
But then it's also a losing battle for Smash fans who are used to Ultimate and are going to view the roster in Melee as a massive step back, right? Is that really serving either the casual or hardcore Smash audience?
Is not bringing it to NSO at all serving anybody?
Right. True.
So
yeah,
for me, I'm of two minds on this. I don't think it will be positioned as the Smash to play. Because I have a whole other thing in my mind about old Switch 1 games. But I do think it will be the linchpin of the GameCube offering on NSO. So I think that they're gonna reveal a handful of games because one criticism that is absolutely warranted is that Nintendo drip feeds the heck out of NSO.
Yeah.
So I think if you're offering a new console, you need to come with more than 2 games, let's say. But I can see them being like, hey, look at some of your Switch favorites. on GameCube where they began. Animal Crossing. You could have some obscure hits like Custom Robo, and then when they think they're done and they're like, oh yeah, and one more, and it's freaking Smash, and people go nuts because just thinking about how much social media would blow up. Like Nintendo just dropped, new Smash or Melee for Switch 2. That would be a very shareable moment as we'd call it in marketing.
I am of the opinion that you can't put GameCube on NSO without Melee. That game is synonymous with the console in a way that I don't think other games are.
I agree with that.
That's
a
fair point.
Nintendo knows that Smash really became what it is today. Like Smash 64 was great. It was a lot of fun, but Smash earned the reputation that it currently enjoys because of Melee. And so I think that it would be, regardless of whether it's the game to play on Switch 2, it would be a huge moment for the community in general. And I think, like you said, Brandon, a lot of people who understand the significance but maybe didn't play it would be extremely and understandably excited for that.
Sure.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also going to be an official way to play Melee in HD, and I think that on its own is exciting, as it would be for any other of the GameCube games that we'd get. One I'm looking forward to is Mario Kart Double Dash, and I think that would be there at launch as well.
Oh, that's what I was trying to find when I stumbled.
Yeah, okay. I agree with that wholeheartedly, Brandon.
As for brand new Switch 2 games, I do want to go back to first party for a bit. Hi, Hunter. Are there other first party games from Nintendo that you think we might see that's not Mario Kart, that's not 3D Mario?
Besides Prime 4? Because I think we're absolutely... Okay, yeah. So besides Prime 4, I mean, there is a bit... It feels like there has been a bit of a groundswell around DK lately with all the DK games on NSO, Returns HD, Donkey Kong Country at the Universal theme parks. And it's been over a decade now since Tropical Freeze. So maybe we'll get a tease of a new 3D DK game, or 2D, but just a new DK. It feels like it's past time, man.
With the push that they've been doing with Donkey Kong lately and all the games that have been coming to NSO, the theme parks, his presence in the movie, there's got to be something coming.
Exactly, right? That's what I'm saying.
I'm thinking that with a lot of irons in the fire, so to speak, Nintendo, I think we all agree, working on a brand new 3D Mario, which is a huge effort for them. They're definitely working on whatever the next big 3D Zelda is. By this point, I don't expect to see it whatsoever.
Same.
I'm willing to bet that we'll have two different things, and they're going to be smaller things. I think we'll have another Zelda remake from Grezzo in the works. That could be anything. My secret hope is Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask. Yeah. Either one of those,
I would cry.
Yeah. Same, man. Yeah.
The other thing that I think is, and I don't want to necessarily say it is this, but something on the level of a Captain Toad, something that is a smaller project that requires a much smaller team that can do things outside of the big AAA development cycle. So I think we'll see some kind of smaller game, and Captain Toad is like the closest allegory I could think of to it.
Captain Toad was originally going to be a Zelda game, and if there isn't some other Zelda thing that'll be ready, I could see them doing a smaller type Zelda title, a spinoff, if you would. Because they've done it before, and it's been a while. We had Link's crossbow training. Give me Link's crossbow training too.
Dompe's Dungeon Maker, baby.
That just rolls off the tongue perfectly. I love that.
Yeah, I think Zelda Maker is going to happen at some point. And a console with mouse functionality is a great place to do that.
It is.
That is so true, yeah.
Now, as far as the Direct is concerned, how much time do you think they're going to spend on Metroid Prime 4? Because I assume we all think it will be there in some capacity.
Definitely think it will be.
That's a good question. So we're recording this the day before the final Switch 1 Direct, as we're calling it, the final Switch 1 Direct. And I'm worried that we're going to get a whole lot of Metroid Prime 4 in that one.
I'm sure we will, but I don't think that means it can't be in both.
I agree. My bigger issue though is that if Nintendo pulls the cover off of Metroid Prime 4 at the now upcoming Switch 1 Direct, that Switch 2 will focus much more on the enhancements to the game as opposed to the game itself. Like, hey, here's how it's better on Switch 2 now that you've seen it. It runs at 4K, 60 FPS thanks to upscaling. And, they wouldn't really break down the nitty gritty of it. But I do. So my prediction is we will get a solid 5 minutes of it if it is not shown at the Switch 1 Direct. If it is, we get like a minute at most where they just kind of show off enhancements as part of a larger segment on how Switch 1 games are better on Switch 2.
And that's something I kind of want to hone in on, because I've been struggling to kind of like think how Nintendo is going to position that. Because I doubt they want people to look at Switch 1 as being inferior, despite that just being objectively true. So I'm curious what the language will be for that.
I disagree. I think Nintendo will not use that direct language. Yeah, but they want you to think Switch 2 that Switch 1 is inferior. They want you to go. They want to get you to the point of purchase, right? And they'll be happy whichever one you pick up, but they obviously want you to pick up Switch 2. So I think it's going to be your favorite games are better on Switch 2. Our already awesome games are better on this hardware, which is something we see a lot, like in the tech sphere, right? Like Apple will always hold up whatever the latest thing is and have some like, this is the best iPhone we've ever made. And I always laugh at that because I'm like, are you ever going to come out and be like, we really phoned it in, guys. This one's not as good.
iPhone we've ever made.
Yeah.
We just screwed it up. Nothing in here makes sense. The 15 was better. We should have just stuck with that. Everything is wrong. I'm quitting. No one's ever going to come out and say that. So I think Nintendo is going to position it, but they're not going to, poo-poo on the Switch 1. They're just going to say like, oh, Switch 2 is better in every way, more advanced, better graphics, and they'll gloss over the things that maybe objectively aren't as good, because if the rumors are to be believed, and frankly, with how right they were, it would make sense that the Switch 2 will have an LCD instead of an OLED panel, which just by the laws of physics will not be as good.
Yeah.
So I think they'll say like, oh, it's our brightest screen ever. It's our biggest screen ever. They won't be like, it's not as color accurate. Damn.
Agreed.
Let's move into the third-party space a little bit. We've had some folks in our live audience chat discussing that, and a couple of games have come up, and there are a few of them here that I think are absolutely 100% happening. Elden Ring being one of them.
Ooh. Yep. I would say not just Elden Ring, but both Elden Ring and Night Rain.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, for
definitely. Sure. I think another one brought up by Professor Bonk that I was going to predict myself, FF7 Remake, I think is just a matter of time, along with Rebirth. But if we saw one of them in a direct, it would be Remake, not Rebirth. Or maybe both, but Remake primarily.
Is Remake one of those that we heard about like a couple years ago?
I feel like we did. Maybe there was some sort of
there were rumblings about Remake a very long time ago.
Yeah.
I feel like Crisis Core was a test to see how much you could get away with on the Switch, and for whatever reason, Square Enix decided not to pursue it. But I mean, Remake was a last gen title. It would only make sense for it to be on Switch 2. However, that will be an interesting test, because if they're putting Remake, they do have to get Rebirth and its eventual follow-up on there. Exactly. And that would be more impressive to me to see Rebirth on there, given
definitely.
how wider in scope it is.
Yeah, that would definitely be a bigger lift.
I think it'll be a little bit easier than we're thinking, because I imagine all three games will operate on the same engine. That gives you a little bit of wiggle room already. We've seen Rebirth run on a variety of consoles to varying degrees of success. But I don't know. I'm feeling confident about that one.
Yeah,
I think they'll make it work.
I think so. It's also worth noting that Rebirth has been scaled down to the point that it can run on the Steam Deck. And I don't think there's any question, at least in my mind, that the Switch 2 will be objectively more powerful than the current iteration of the Steam Deck.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not and that's not even like considering the version of DLSS that it will ship with. That's going to give it a lot of leg room already. Another game. Let's see. Other games that I'm seeing, Street Fighter 6, someone said Tekken 8. I'm not sure about that one. But it does beg the question, are there current third-party games that they're going to show in that segment Steve was talking about where they'll show games that look better on Switch 2?
Ooh, third-party games that look better on Switch 2 that are already out
I can think of one already. Mortal Kombat. Looks like on Switch 1.
Well, Mortal Kombat really needs the additional horsepower. I would say Mortal Kombat, both 10 and 1 would be great case studies for how to improve. As far as third-party games go, I'm struggling, to be honest. I think you could put up just about anything, though.
We already brought one up earlier that I think we could see. I mean, it's pretty well known that Rocket League looks kind of like butt on Switch 1, and I think it could obviously look way better on Switch 2. So Rocket League is certainly one. Yeah.
Rocket League and Fortnite, which we did talk about previously. If you've never played the Switch 1 version of Fortnite, it is awful. It is horrendously bad. Routinely runs at about 15 FPS. Awful pop-in. Like it's amazing that people actually routinely play on it.
Mm-hmm.
My kids actually play Fortnite all the time on their Switches, and they got they now have the ability to play on PS5s because I've got one in the house upstairs, and to them it's like seeing color for the first time. Like they are amazed at how much detail there is in that game. But yeah, I would say Fortnite would be another one that would just hopefully show a very dramatic difference.
You know, similarly, another game that runs like ass on Switch 1 is Fall Guys, and that would be a clear improvement on Switch 2, just getting it to 60 FPS, period.
Fall Guys is integrated into Fortnite now, isn't it?
It is, to a degree.
To a degree, but not completely. It's at least on PS5, it's still its own game.
Application?
Application launcher, yeah.
I don't think you get one without the other in this case.
That makes sense, yeah.
One thing that I could see, and it would be, so I think this is gonna come coupled with a few different things, but Ubisoft has been building an Assassin's Creed launcher that basically lets you launch into any game. If you haven't played Shadows yet, in Shadows, if you go to the start menu, it lists every game, like by the time period in which that game takes place, and then lets you choose. And if you choose a game other than Shadows, it'll actually launch that game on your console, which is, I thought that was against some kind of rule, but it works. I was very surprised by how well it worked. I don't necessarily see Shadows coming day and date because Shadows is one of the best examples of a current gen title I've seen in a while from a visual perspective, but I could see them perhaps announcing an Assassin's Creed launcher and then showing off, like, because if you've ever played Assassin's Creed on the Switch, all of them look really bad. They're not well put together. And you could get some very easy performance gains from not just porting them to Switch 2, but also cleaning up the Switch 1 ports. I'm sure you could have made them better. And now that I'm thinking of it, I do think we'll see some of the Impossible ports from Switch looking a lot better. Witcher, Doom Eternal.
Yeah.
I could see those getting major improvements on Switch 2.
One area that we haven't explored much that I think has a good shot of being in the Direct is Xbox. I would not be surprised to see a game like Master Chief Collection show up here. Just, it's something that has the kind of, not impossible from a tech standpoint, but impossible from these companies don't mingle kind of perspective. True. Right. They do mingle, but like Master Chief being on Nintendo is kind of a wild thing to me.
I mean, I think any of Master Chief Collection, Forza Horizon 5, and Indiana Jones in the Great Circle are all possible, and even like maybe not all three at the same time, but it wouldn't surprise me if we got all three eventually. But I do think we'll see one of those three in the Switch 2 Direct. I'm not sure which one, but Forza probably makes the most sense since it's coming. Well, so does Indy. Both of them are coming to PlayStation in April. So
I disagree. Yeah. I think Master Chief Collection is the one. And the reason why I think that is because, one, there have been rumors about Master Chief Collection for like 5 years now. It's just been something that the game industry has been saying is going to happen since before Xbox went truly multi-platform. The other piece of it is that there's a certain gravitas to that announcement that would pair really nicely with Nintendo dropping a whole new platform, right? Like you have more eyes on that announcement than you will anything for the next decade, possibly from Nintendo anyway. And so I think Microsoft would want to bring their biggest gun to the party, and that there's no bigger gun in their arsenal than Master Chief. Right. So being like, hey, we're not just dropping a Halo game, we're dropping all the Halo games.
All the Halo games.
You know, that is a huge thing that even within the context of a Switch 2 announcement, people will go like, oh my God, you know, this is massive. And I think both parties benefit a huge amount from it. I have an actual different impossible situation that I think will happen.
Oh,
okay.
For Switch 2. I think we're going to see Helldivers.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
I think Sony has been strategically putting IPs on other platforms, and they've made it pretty clear that they see that they view Nintendo quite differently than they view Xbox. They almost put them in the same category as PC games to an extent. You know, you get lots of stuff later on, but Helldivers is an interesting case because it's a live service game that they need to get more users into, you know, as often as they can. And I don't think they'll ever quite reach the point where they want to put it on Xbox, but I could definitely see them wanting to tap into Nintendo's fan base, especially with how much Helldivers exploded in popularity, then kind of shrunk, right? So there's, you know, there were the memes and just how much it proliferated online, and then it got very quiet. Helldivers is clearly on kind of a downward trajectory, and having it appear on a Nintendo console, I think would be one of those things where it would give it enough of a boost to maybe sustain it for a while longer before they have to consider big expansions or something drastic to get the player base back.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Getting more of those live service type games that are popular. I mean, we talked about Fortnite, we talked about Minecraft and Fall Guys. Just adding to that list, I think, makes sense. And Helldivers 2 is the one that comes to mind first. I could see Marvel Rivals showing up in the Direct to be another one to add to that list.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing as much about it as I did around launch, but it's a good game. And I think that's a good get for them to have on the platform.
Agreed. I want to circle back really quick to something you said earlier, Brandon, and I'm curious because we brought up Mortal Kombat 1 and 10, and chat, our live audience, brought up Street Fighter 6, and then we brought up Tekken 8, and you specifically said you didn't think Tekken 8 was going to happen, and I'm curious why. Just because, I mean, we've had a legacy of Tekken on previous Nintendo hardware, even stuff like Wii U with Tekken Tag 2. So I'm kind of curious just why you thought Tekken 8 specifically not.
I don't think Tekken 8 will happen unless it is dramatically scaled down.
Interesting. Okay.
That game has a lot of particle effects, very high definition looking. I mean, it is, I don't want to say it's just a fighting game, but it is just a fighting game. So like they're, you know, it's probably not as resource intensive as a lot of other games are. But I don't know, something about Tekken 8 and just what that game looks like makes me feel like that's not going to happen.
All right, I was curious. Yeah.
While we're on the topic of Bandai Namco fighting games, I feel like it's amazing Brandon and I haven't brought this up yet. Sparking Zero.
Yeah.
Sparking Zero, I would consider to be almost as safe a bet as anything for Switch 2. There's almost no way they're not bringing it over.
I mean, they brought Kakarot over, and I thought that was never going to happen. It you know, Switch also got Dragon Ball Fighters, both Xenoverse games. The Breakers, I think, is also on Switch. So yeah, basically every Dragon Ball game that's come out in the last decade has come out on Switch. So I think Sparking Zero is a shoo-in.
Agreed.
The last Tenkaichi game came out on Wii, so you know, they've done it before.
Yeah, true.
You know, one other third party we haven't talked about yet, who's currently in the middle of kind of a cool redemption arc, is Konami. And I'm wondering about Silent Hill 2 Remake and Metal Gear Solid Delta. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see either of those on Switch 2. In the least.
Silent Hill, I think could happen. I'm wondering about Metal Gear Solid. Not because, not for any relationship reasons. I just wonder if it would run.
I mean, we don't know enough yet, I guess, about MGS Delta itself to really be able to predict that too much one way or the other. But The Metal Gear series does have a rich history on Nintendo consoles, so you'd think that they're at least looking at it.
Yeah,
at the
And
possibility.
Metal Gear Solid 3 had that 3DS port.
Right.
That's the first way I played it, actually. I have a lot of love for that version. As
Yeah.
poorly as it runs, I have a lot of love for that version.
Yeah, I actually think we are going to see MGS Delta.
I think so too.
One thing we're not really accounting for with some of these is how much of an uplift DLSS will give these games. And to be fair, who knows? We have no way of knowing exactly how much DLSS will play into factor into these things, or really how beneficial it will be in the long run. Stuff like PSSR has had middling effects on some games and then is absolutely phenomenal on others. So it'll be interesting to see how well developers, get acquainted with the Switch 2 hardware and what they're able to draw out of it. Because I do think in this direct, we're going to see more. I don't want to, I never want to undermine the efforts of a developer, but we will see more basic efforts because, as with anything, when you're learning a new platform, you're not going to be able to immediately draw out 100% of its potential. So if MGS Delta doesn't appear, I would suspect it's just because Konami needs more time to cook with it. In fact, I don't think we're going to see it in the direct. I think we're going to get it at some point, but I would say Silent Hill 2 is almost certainly going to be in the direct. I don't think we'll see MGS Delta, or if we do, it might just be like a logo and a confirmation that it's coming at some point.
I actually just remembered, and I don't know if I'm misremembering this, but if I remember correctly, Silent Hill 2 console is a 1-year timed exclusive for PlayStation. So for that reason, if I'm remembering correctly, we'll get it eventually, but it might not be in the direct.
Yeah, we'll probably end up waiting on that one.
Yeah. But I could totally see MGS Delta.
I've been going back and forth on Monster Hunter Wilds.
That's what I was going to ask. We haven't talked about Monster Hunter yet. I can't believe it. Yeah.
I've been going back and forth because that game just does not work on Steam Deck. And that makes me feel like getting it on Switch 2 would be difficult. But, they could be working on a Switch 2 specific version. It's hard to say. I think Nintendo wants Monster Hunter on their platform. They worked really hard to keep them on 3DS and off the PSP. And Capcom informed some of Switch 1's development because they wanted Rise to be on that platform. So I don't know. What do you think about that, Steve?
So first off, I just have to say, I love Monster Hunter Wilds, which is not something I would have said a year ago. But I personally am of the mind that Monster Hunter Wilds will be shown. I don't know that it'll have a release date, but I feel like it, not only is it coming, but it's going to be in the direct. I don't think that they want to maybe put out a port of an older Monster Hunter game, and Monster Hunter, as you mentioned, Brandon, is so clearly important to both Nintendo and Capcom, right? I would say that Monster Hunter is now Capcom's primary franchise, above Street Fighter, above everything else that they're known for. It's their most popular thing that it's a going concern with them. So I think it would be really crazy if Nintendo didn't court Capcom, in some way to get this on the Switch 2 and to get it as soon as possible when the console drops, because for many years, Monster Hunter was known as a portable franchise, something that you took with you. And I think it really blossomed in popularity across the PSP and the DS and the 3DS. Now it's much more, in my opinion, of a standard console game, that you sit down and enjoy more than a portable experience. But especially in Japan, they've, in the same way we do, they value the ability to be able to just take their games wherever. And so I think that having games that appear on Switch routinely sell better on that platform because of how accessible they are. So I think that Capcom would want the easy money here, and Nintendo would want that name in their lineup.
Another thing I've been considering is that Wilds is not the only Monster Hunter game that's current. Monster Hunter Outlanders is coming to mobile sometime this year or early next year. And they have not announced any consoles for that. And part of me thinks that's because it's going to be Switch 2 exclusive.
I can definitely see that.
If it's going to run on a phone, it'll run on your Switch 2. Outlanders is an open air, more survival based Monster Hunter, something completely left field for the series. And I feel like that being on Switch 2 would make the most sense if Wilds, can't happen. If it does, then I'm not as sure about that, but that's just something I've been mulling over for a while.
Yeah, I think there will be a big focus from Nintendo on games that are more traditionally associated with visual prowess and presentation here, because part of what they really need to communicate to consumers is that this is not a device so weak that you can't play current gen games on it.
Sure.
I think part of the messaging has to be, all that stuff that you can play on your PS5, there's a version of it here, and it's not horrifically worse, right? I think Monster Hunter Wilds goes a long way towards showing them, toward communicating to potential buyers, hey, this thing's got power. It's a powerful machine. In the same way that, Xenoblade Chronicles X, people playing it, I've been seeing impressions. They're like, wow, I can't believe, something this big is on Switch. I think you need to create that sense of excitement around the Switch 2 as well, with games that, you're like, wow, that absolutely could not have been on Switch 1. I'm surprised it's here.
Yeah.
I also,
good.
Go ahead.
I would say, or games that are on Switch 1, but only in the form of cloud versions, as we've seen with Resident Evil 2 Remake. Things like that too, where they're like, no, this is no more cloud version nonsense. You can just play these games on Switch 2 natively. So I wouldn't be surprised to see one of RE2, 3, or 4 from Cap.
Here comes Kingdom Hearts all-in-one package.
There's that too. Yeah,
it's looming over the horizon right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh God, I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh no!
Don't worry, I've got you covered with a prediction. On third parties, I think we're going to see, and I hope they do this right. I really hope that the developers get this right. I think we're going to see Cyberpunk on Switch 2.
Okay.
That would be insane.
It had a disastrous PS4 and Xbox One launch, but, and I know that folks are saying, if the rumor mill is to be believed, Switch 2 is about as powerful as a PS4. However, it then has DLSS on top of that, which could get it to a place where it runs, serviceably enough. So I'm hopeful that we'll see, I don't think we'll see the most beautiful version of Cyberpunk, but I would be willing to bet that CDPR's game will end up on Switch 2.
I can see it.
That would be crazy.
Yes, it would.
I wouldn't be surprised if Square Enix had some exclusive game coming to Switch 2 in that first few months or first year. And I think a Square Enix exclusive is something you'd want to see in a presentation like this.
That is true. But what would that exclusive be, though, is the question.
I don't know if it would be a brand new IP, if it'd be another Bravely Default game, if it would be the part of me that wants Dragon Quest IX to be remade so bad.
Yeah.
Or just a Final Fantasy spinoff. There's millions of those.
True. Octopath Traveler 3 could always be a possibility.
In the Switch 1 predictions video, we talked about My Life as a King.
Yeah.
Let's get the sequel, baby.
That's true. That'd be cool.
That could be a good one.
Feeling Dreepy mentions ports of Bravely Default and Bravely Second. Yeah, I mean,
those would be cool.
Bravely Default in Second and HD would be really sick. I would love to see that happen.
And
unless, of course, we see them tomorrow. But if you're watching this in the future, a few days ago,
yeah.
I just couldn't see. I think it would have to be something like Bravely Default, because I couldn't see them doing a straight up Switch exclusive, given how gun shy they've been about exclusives in the last 6 months or so. The way they, Square Enix has been pretty vocal about the fact that they want to get their games on as many platforms as possible.
Yeah.
So if it's going to be an exclusive, I think it would have to be something that already was a Nintendo exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Bravely makes a lot of sense then. How long has it been since Bravely Default 2 came out?
I think that was 2019. No, I could be wrong with that. That seems like too long ago. Let's see.
Well, regardless, it sounds like it's been long enough that a Bravely Third or Bravely Default 3 would come out.
Yeah. Yes.
Now,
it's only about 3 years. So yeah, it's about time.
Any more predictions?
I'm sure I could predict a million things.
Yeah.
I also feel like we've predicted more things than they'll have time to show.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, why don't we do this? Is there going to be a one more thing?
Yes. 100%
Yeah.
What is it?
yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Ooh, what is it?
Hollow Knight
Oh.
Silksong. I'm kidding.
No, Silk Song, I think, is going to be. Oh gosh,
Tomorrow.
What if it's in the Switch 1 Direct? Yeah.
That would be
could be
crazy.
tomorrow.
Right? It could be tomorrow. No, it wouldn't be. I don't think it would be the one more thing in Switch 2.
Okay, so you know what? We didn't talk about this, but I'm thinking back to 2017 and how many bangers we had, right? We had Odyssey, we had Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. We had Splatoon 2. So
Fire Emblem Warriors, ARMS.
yeah. I'm going to say that a one more thing, and this is going to sound nuts, and I can't believe I'm saying this, and I will be wrong, so don't bother coming for me when I'm wrong. The teasiest of teasers of a new Zelda game.
You know, weirdly enough, I was actually thinking that, even though it makes no sense. I don't know
There-
why I'm thinking that too.
I don't think it needs to be a lot, like
Right.
Steve said. I
Yeah.
think just them, Aonuma on camera, looking at the audience and saying, we're developing the next Legend of Zelda game for Nintendo Switch 2. And
Yeah.
that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I
Um,
could see it being something in the vein of Tears of the Kingdom's first tease. Even.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
You know.
Yeah.
Like with
the-
a cinematic.
Yeah, like a
Yeah.
brief cinematic. I think that's how you really stir the hype, right? And you could do a full. I mean, they did that with Breath of the Wild. We got that fully
That's true.
CG trailer of Link getting chased by a guardian. We got that Tears of the Kingdom trailer, which was clearly in-engine footage, but they had the benefit of an existing engine, right? So
Mhm.
I could see something that's very just high concept and just, doesn't end up reflecting the game outside of maybe the art style and getting something like that. And then a year at the end of it, 2026 or 2027. Good God.
Yeah. I mean,
oh, go ahead.
Vedran mentioned Ocarina 2, which I don't think that's going to happen, but
We have
Ocar-
Ocarina 2 already.
well, exactly. Or actually, this is what I was going to say. I just missed David M. say it. What if it's just an updated model of Hero of Time Link playing the Ocarina of Time, and it's an Ocarina of Time remake? And that's
See, now
all they
here's-
show.
Here's my problem with that. If that's happening, I think it's way further along because I don't think the primary
Oh,
Zelda
mhm.
team would be doing an
That's
Ocarina
true.
remake.
That's
I think
true.
that
That'd
would
be
be a
Grezzo.
Grezzo
Yeah.
remake that's,
Yeah.
could be done for all we know.
Right.
It's been a long, Echoes of Wisdom came out in July last year, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't it September?
Or no,
It
it
was-
was it was September because we previewed it.
Yeah.
At
it was
PAX.
September.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's something that Grezzo could certainly be working on, and I think that they have the bandwidth to have been doing this plus, like an Ocarina remake at the same time.
Mhm.
They remade Ocarina once.
Yeah, true enough.
Even if it's just like a more enhanced port of Ocarina 3D, I don't know. There's something in my gut saying that's happening at some point.
I can see it. Yeah, I can see it.
My one more thing. I'm just gonna go completely off the wall. Well, I guess it's not off the wall depending on who you are. I think the one more thing could be Smash Brothers.
I was thinking that too. I do wholeheartedly believe that Sakurai's current project is Smash. I think he's working on Smash again.
He's been working on a game for 2 years next month, I
Mhm.
think. And Smash development cycles aren't that long.
Yeah.
So I would not be surprised if that happened, but
I wonder because I mean, there's a whole other discussion we could have about this that could go hours long, but
Yeah.
a potential Smash successor has to be something. I feel like it in my bones. It has to be a complete reinvention of not just the game but the platform fighting genre because it's just Ultimate covered all the bases. So what do you
Mhm.
do after Ultimate without it feeling lesser?
That's
I know
Yeah.
last time, before we knew Smash 5 was Ultimate, or 6, depending on who you are, there were discussions. People were like, oh, this is going to be an enhanced port of Smash for Wii U. Even after seeing the initial teaser with the Inklings and Breath of the Wild Link, people were still saying it was an enhanced port of Wii U. I could see them porting Ultimate. You could already play it on Switch technically, but new season of characters, new modes. Like, how far do they go? If they don't want to reinvent the wheel, do they just build on what we have?
Mm-hmm. I mean, as you said, it's hard because that is a whole discussion unto itself, or as Steve said. Yeah, there's so many directions they could go in with that.
I think if you end your presentation with Smash, you have shattered the earth.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and
I just can't.
It might be too early, though, because I don't expect to see it until at least next year in terms of possibly getting released, like at 2026 at the earliest.
I don't know. I think they've been working on it long enough.
Yeah.
And
see,
it was 3-4 years from Smash 4 to Ultimate. Ultimate came out 7 years ago.
Yeah.
This
Ultimate
year.
came out in the Switch 1 second year. So that's why I'm thinking Switch 2 second year is the earliest would see the next Smash.
See, now I normally would say that I think we've definitely had enough time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Between Smashes. But there's a part of me that believes that we're going to see like a select group of like deluxe editions of Switch 1 games. Like where Nintendo hasn't just enhanced them, but actually added content to them. You know, like I could see games that didn't get DLC or stopped receiving updates long ago, maybe getting new updates announced or longer support announced alongside like Switch 2 enhancements. Like I could see, for instance, I don't believe we're going to see Splatoon 4. I think it's way too early. For whatever reason, even though, you know, Splatoon 3 has been, I don't want to say on life support, but really hasn't been getting like regular content. I could see them saying, hey, Splatoon 3 now is, you know, 120 FPS on Switch 2, and we've decided to release a couple more seasons of stuff for it, right? Maybe we're going to add a whole new slate of weapons to it or some more single player content, whatever. I could see them doing the same with Smash. Like, hey, Smash Ultimate DX update comes out day and date with Switch 2. So if you already own Smash, you know, it's free of charge and you can, you know, or maybe it's free for NSO members, right? And then you can, they'll add like maybe some new echoes and 1 or 2 new characters, and that'll be the end of Smash. I just feel like Nintendo's going to try to elevate some of the Switch 1 games that have been on the market for a while to give them a new lease on life while they buy time to develop an entire new entry.
Super Smash Brothers even more ultimate than last time.
Yeah,
you know what? Actually, one thing I think we've all forgotten about so far, and I just thought of now, I do agree with you, Steve, that it's too soon for Splatoon 4. However, what I don't think it's too soon for is a new Animal Crossing. That could be the one last thing.
I disagree there too, and I want nothing more than for there to be one. And the reason why is because we know Mario Kart 9's coming, and Mario Kart 9 is the same team that would be doing Animal Crossing. And so I think that they probably, even though, and this sounds nuts because Mario Kart 8 DX is like a 10-year-old game and that's being charitable to it. You know, Animal Crossing wrapped, and then they've been working on presumably Mario Kart 9 since then, from concept to release, right? And I think that once they are done with support for Mario Kart 9, or maybe they'll split the team off, you know, some will support future updates to Mario Kart while others work on a new Animal Crossing. But I also think that Animal Crossing is another series where you have to rethink the fundamentals of it to develop something that doesn't feel too similar to New Horizons. New Horizons had plenty of things you could fix, but I still think they're running into this core problem of player retention with the series as a whole, where they need to figure out, like, how do we keep people returning to it and not just dropping it after a month and then complaining, you know, because that's something you see with a lot of fans is they play the game and they're like, I've got every fish, I've got every bug, I'm done now. And somehow, even though that takes forever, they still feel like they wanted more from the game.
There's an unfortunate reality in today's gaming landscape where live service games have ruined the way people perceive games.
True enough. Yeah.
Games can never be complete.
Yeah.
And when they're not, people complain. You know, a game can reach its logical conclusion, and then people will be like, "That's it. This is a dead game now."
Yeah. It is unfortunate. Right. I think the issue with Animal Crossing is that there's no end to it, and because there's no end to it, people view it as a game that is not finished. Ironically, Animal Crossing would be the one game that I can think of where an eShop with microtransactions would probably be something the community would really want. Like if they were just like, hey, we've developed, we're adding a whole new season of various furniture items that you can buy for real world cash, or even if they just kept releasing paid DLC packs where you could, hey, we've added, a few hundred new clothing and furniture items. You can buy them for $3. People would just keep coming back and doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that I don't want Nintendo to go that way with it. I really don't. But I think it would do very well for them if they did.
Mm-hmm. I kind of don't want them to go that way either. And another thing I'm about to say is only going to fuel that happening. I think Animal Crossing needs to be more social of a game than it is. There are social elements in Animal Crossing already, but it's still pretty much just a single player game. A single player game that other people can also be there for. But I don't know, City Folk had the city, but didn't really do anything with it. I want there to be your island where you do your thing. But I think there should be another place, a big place with other people that you can do stuff. Like Tortimer's Island, but 300 times bigger.
I sincerely hope that the NSO beta for whatever that game concept was is somehow linked to the next Animal Crossing, where you can build unique things and share them with people, and people can just kind of exist in the same space as you and build their own things. I didn't get to play it, but so I'm paraphrasing third-hand information, but I could see if they really ratcheted up the social aspects of Animal Crossing, that it could be a phenomenon, the likes of which Nintendo may have never seen. And that's saying something, because New Horizons absolutely exploded. So
yeah,
I can see if they took that to a more persistent online space, that it would be something like the same way kids talk about like Habbo Hotel and Club Penguin and stuff. Like I could see kids of this generation being like, oh, I grew up on Animal Crossing, with my friends. And that would be the type of live service game that is one of those ones that just persists for forever and is sure. A money printing machine.
So to recap here, we've got two games that we think are guarantees. Mario 3D game and Mario Kart. One of those games has already been announced, technically. And then for our one more things, we have three different ideas. We've got a very light tease for the next mainline Legend of Zelda. We have a Super Smash Brothers in some form, and we have Animal Crossing. Let us know in the comments below. Which one do you think is going to happen? Are any of them going to happen? Tell us what you think the one more thing will be, and if there will be one. I'm really curious. Usually I don't shoot for the moon like that with this kind of thing, but this is a console reveal. They're going to go with their guns a-blazing.
Yeah. Nintendo has one chance to make a first impression here. And what they, it's unfortunate, but what they do here is going to dictate the popularity of the system, at least for the next couple of years.
We already know, well, we assume that there's not going to be something on the level of Breath of the Wild, right? Breath of the Wild had a anticipation behind it unlike anything I've ever seen.
Yeah. But a tease of the next mainline 3D Zelda could still carry its own weight. But yeah, not quite to the level of Breath of the Wild's immense hype, though.
Yeah, and to be fair, Nintendo did have the added benefit of starting development for that game on the Wii U and teasing the heck out of it there. And then, it just happening to coincide with the Switch and being like, the best version of this game we've been hyping for years is here.
It was the perfect storm.
That. Yeah. So there's no way anything is going to reach that level of excitement. But I think they have the potential here to really ignite their fan base, maybe not to that degree, but to a pretty high level here. And I think that Metroid Prime 4 is going to be kind of the torchbearer for the serious gamer moment of the of the Switch 2 Direct.
Azran in the live audience chat makes a good point. If Mario's as open as we think it'll be, that could be the thing.
I agree as well.
I think they're right.
I agree with Azran in that respect. The only way in which I disagree is, like I said, they don't have the benefit of kind of teasing and hyping this game for the Switch 1 for years ahead of the reveal. So, we're going in not knowing what the big gun will be, because it's likely something we haven't seen before.
If it's not just Mario Kart, there is a world where it could just be Mario Kart.
We do have to be real, where Nintendo is like, here's a first party game and it's one. And I sincerely hope, Iwata, may he rest in peace, did a lot of work to streamline Nintendo's development operations ahead of his passing, right?
Yeah.
And because of that, Nintendo seems to have been able to consistently deliver games month on month throughout the 8 years of the Switch's life. So my hope is that with those efficiencies that were built into Nintendo's organizational structure, that they were able to prepare at least 3 games, just, of their own, in addition to whatever third parties are doing. So I'm hoping we don't have another launch where it's like, hey, here's Luigi's Mansion and Wave Race. Good luck.
I'm pretty confident.
Wave Race would be hype. I'm sorry. We haven't had a new one in so long.
I agree, but I'm just saying the GameCube launched with exactly 2 games from Nintendo.
No, I got you. Yeah.
3DS had a similar situation.
Yeah.
And yeah, the proof's in the pudding. Nintendo has been holding on to games that they finished and just waiting to release them on Switch. So I'm sure that there are at least a few that have been ready for Switch 2, maybe for as long as a year. They've just been sitting there.
Yeah.
And it's also worth noting that they may have ported games that were complete for Switch 1 and decided to upgrade them and move them.
I look at Princess Peach Showtime, and that game doesn't run really well, and I think to myself, is this a Switch 1 game? You never know. Yeah. You could be right about that. But I think that's going to do it for us. Obviously, we're really excited about Switch 2. There's so much that we were talking about, and there's still so much more we could talk about. But we're at the point where we're here. It's happening.
It's time.
It's time.
And there's going to be the before Switch 2 and the after Switch 2. It's one of those moments in history, right?
And it's like a week away. It's crazy. We are on the cusp of something really exciting here.
Just a week away. That's insane.
Yep.
But let us know what you think in the comments below. What are you looking forward to? What is the game that you want to see the most? And just let us know what you think about everything we had to say. I'm very curious. There's a lot of speculation because we know a whole lot of nothing. But thanks for checking us out here at GVG. If you want to be part of the live audience and watch these discussions live as they happen, you can join us on our Patreon at the silver tier to get involved, and we'd love to have you here. But until next time, and next time might be after the Switch 2. I don't know when this is going up, but keep the games good and the vibes greater. Bye now.
Bye.